Hey guys, so I have a habit of picking out just a random book from my bookshelf, and I felt very inspired today. As many of you may already know that watch my videos, I'm very fond of Yeshua, Jesus, and I'm also very fond of channelings that are done by channelers. And one of them is Tina Louise Spalding is my favorite, but I also love Gina Lake, and she has done so many books on her channelings from Yeshua. And so I wanted to talk today as your daily inspiration or whatever. I randomly always just open up whatever book I pull, and then whatever it falls on is what I just always, almost always, I know what I'm going to talk about. I know what needs to come through me. So it fell to chapter 5, surrendering knowing, and it's really all about surrendering the egoic mind and surrendering the need to know what tomorrow brings, um, the need to feel safe, the need to, well, really just being in the mental head all the time, and surrendering to spirit, being in the now moment and learning how to live from that space and love from that space. I found myself this morning when I finally, after the dog ate, the cats, obviously my family ate, I sat down. Um, well, I didn't sit down right away because I had to make my own meal because I don't eat the same kind of foods generally. Well, definitely not with the cats and the dogs. That sounded funny. Um, but anyway, so I made my own plate, and I'm kind of high maintenance that way. I like to, do a big display just for my own. I love food. I'm a foodie. And I like to do like sampler plates a lot of times. Or like I'll do like a side soup, or like, yeah, like a side soup and a salad. And it doesn't have to be, I've definitely gotten out of the habit of thinking I have to eat breakfast food. Um, I don't even eat eggs anymore. Rarely do I eat eggs. So, anyway, getting back to my point, is that I finally made myself something, sat down in the kitchen with my fresh squeezed juice, and I just enjoyed my meal. And I heard Chase in the background laughing with the dog. And it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment because not only was I enjoying my food and my juice, but I heard Chase laughing, and he genuinely was so happy to be playing with his dog. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And my point in sharing that is that when you surrender to the moment and you're not in your head, you're able to flow more with life. And it doesn't have to be family or food. It can be anything. It can be a good scenery, like a beautiful, um, I've got this big flower tree outside right when I step outside my house, and it's blooming beautifully right now, and I just love it so much. And or when I'm on my trapeze, or even if I'm doing house chores, I just try to stay present with myself, and um, to not get involved with the ego's um, rants, I guess is a good way to put it. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share a little bit from her book. It's called Love and Surrender by Gina Lake, and I love her Jesus's teachings. Um, I've been following her for many years, just as I have Tina Louise Spalding. Again, because I'm very connected with Yeshua, and he's one of my greatest ascended master teachers. I love him very much. So, this is chapter 5, Surrendering Knowing. Surrendering knowing is not about surrendering actual knowledge, but surrendering untruths. and the pretense of actual knowledge. What makes this especially challenging is that people often don't realize they are holding on to untruths or pretending to know. The egoic mind is very tricky. Built into your thoughts is the sense that they are true. So why would you question them? That is the problem. People generally don't question their thoughts because they assume their thoughts are true, or at the very least, that those thoughts are their own real opinions about life and therefore valuable and at least personally true. Knowledge is a good thing. No one would argue that. Knowing how to get from your home to where you work is essential. Knowing what day it is, what words to use to describe things, how to read, how to do math, how to test a hypothesis. This knowledge is necessary and extremely useful. The part of your brain that learns, retains knowledge, and evaluates and applies knowledge is exactly what is needed to see that the thoughts that come into your mind do not pass the intelligence test. You have a mind that learns and processes knowledge, and you have the thoughts that come into your mind, the egoic mind. These are two very different kinds of thinking. One is intelligent, and the other is essentially programming. If you had a computerized voice that was programmed with some information, rules, and general advice, you would have something close to the egoic mind, with one very important difference. The egoic mind is petty, unkind, judgmental, bossy, critical, and generally always dissatisfied. If this does not describe your egoic mind, then you are one of the few fortunate souls who are gifted with the computerized inner voice that is not also a complainer. Progress along the spiritual path often neutralizes some of the negativity of one's thoughts, but rarely does the egoic mind disappear completely. In all likelihood, the voice in your head is there to stay and must be continually dealt with. The first step in dealing with the egoic mind is getting to know it. What are the thoughts that run through your head? What are the most common ones? Write them down. That way you can examine them more objectively. The second step is to do just that. Question your thoughts. Are they true? Are they useful? Do you need them? How do they affect you? Do you like how you are being affected by them? If not, what can you do about that? The third step is to see that you have some power in relation to your thoughts. They are, after all, yours, so you can do with them what you choose. You can believe them and act on them or not. You can evaluate the possible consequences of acting on them before you do and choose otherwise if you don't want those consequences. Life is a great mystery, and so are human beings. There are many more questions than answers. You can know lots of things and lots of facts and still not know what life is all about, what your life is about, why things are the way that they are, what's going to happen, why people behave the way that they do or did, why things happen the way that they did, and on it goes. There are many more things that you don't know and never will know. It's important to realize and admit this to yourself. This is where the false self falls down. It does not admit what it doesn't know. Instead, it pretends to know things that can never be known, as well as things that may be known at some point but aren't known yet. If you met someone who did this, you would call that person a pathological liar, which is someone who makes up things that aren't true and tries to pass them off onto others as if they were true. That is a description of our egoic mind. Do you need these thoughts? This is a very good question to ask ourselves. Take a look and answer this for yourself. You certainly don't need any thoughts that don't actually have the answer to something, but pretend to. Spotting such thoughts isn't actually that hard. You just have to stop a moment and ask yourself, do I really know that? You may be quite surprised at how often the answer is no. This is how you discover the truth about your thoughts. You have to ask yourself some questions. They are very simple questions, but ones that most people don't ever think to ask themselves. If you ever suggest to others that they question their thoughts, most will look at you funny, as if there was something wrong with you. The programming does not want to be questioned. It is not meant to be uncovered. And yet the truth eventually comes out at some point in the person's evolutionary process. It is time now in humanity's evolution for the truth to come out, which is why there are more and more teachings like this one being made available to the general public. The world can no longer withstand the ego's domination. The ego must be made subordinate, and love must take its place. But because you have free will, you have to do the work yourself of seeing this and freeing yourself from your own ego. It is an inside job, guys. Nobody's going to do it for you. And the more that you resist not following the ego's path, the more that you're going to suffer. Ultimately, you're going to suffer. I mean, you're going to suffer. Being a human isn't easy either way, but you deal with a lot less suffering when you release resistance to the ego and all of its like worry, doubt, fear, jealousy, blame, drama, all that shit. The shit show. It's just a shit show. I'm working very hard right now to release a lot of those thought patterns. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job, but I've got a long ways to go, as we all do, of course. Here are some common examples of the mind pretending to know when it doesn't. You think you know what someone thinks about you. You think you know how someone feels about you. You think you know how someone feels about something. You think you know why something happened or why someone did what he or she did. You think you know what someone else is going to do. You think you know what you are going to do. You think you know what someone else should do. You think you know what you should do. You see how this is so cyclical and crazy, really? If you think about it, how our brains work and when we're not conscious of what we're thinking about and our emotions are playing out, how crazy it sounds. It's ludicrous. You think you know what will make someone happy. You think you know what will make you happy. You think you will like or not like someone, as if you ever feel just one way about someone. You think you know how some experience will feel. You think you know how you will feel in the future. You think you know what's going to happen in the world. You think you know what's happening in the world. You think you know the solution to what's happening in the world. You think you know what your life is going to look like tomorrow. You think you know what you are going to do tomorrow. You think you know what you're going to do in the next few hours. You think, you think, you think, you think, you think, you think. The point is that you never get down to the peace and you never learn to cease the chatter. And as I have mentioned in previous videos, your thoughts create because you are a powerful creator. And if you don't believe that, just see the fruits of your life labor, the fruits of your life. What have you created? It's all been through thought. I mean, of course you have to take action when you have those thoughts and emotions, but it ultimately boils down. Actions up here, but then thought and emotion, what's in here that's where creation happens. When I wanted to have a baby, I just decided. And then, a month later, I was pregnant. It just happens. It's just thought is first. Thought is first. That's why we have to be very careful about what we think about. I think, watch those two words, please, as they point to speculation on the part of the mind, a mere idea that is often based on very little information or knowledge. Often such thoughts have no basis in reality whatsoever. The mind just likes to think, so it thinks thoughts, which is, a natural part of the egoic process. It comes up with ideas pretty much out of the blue. Notice how much of your conversations with others are based on opinions and theories about everything and anything instead of, what's really going on within that other person or within yourself or within anything that's going on in your life. The reality may be very different from what your mind is telling you. I could go on, but I think we've got the gist of, there's a few more pages of this chapter, and I don't want to make this video too long. It's already 16 minutes, but I just wanted to make my point that surrendering to spirit and really being ever vigilant about your thought patterns and what you're thinking and feeling, it creates worlds. It creates worlds, and it's really important to remember as you go throughout your day that it's a part of the trusting, learning how to lean in and trust instead of thinking that you know everything and that you know what's going to happen tomorrow and that you have to plan everything. The ego is very tricky, like it said at the beginning of the chapter. The ego is very tricky, and so you have to be ever vigilant with your mind. Your mind is the most important aspect of your life. A lot of us think that money is the most important aspect, or our body figures, or our children, or which all of these things are great and wonderful, and they are important. You want to have a healthy body. You want to have money in the bank. You want to have healthy children and happy children, and you want to have a nice house if you can. You want all these things, of course, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is your mind. The most important thing is how your mind functions and how well you're able to control it. Now, I'm not sitting on a pedestal here trying to preach. I am in this ballgame with you. I am on the dirt floor, grappling my way through just as all of you are. But it is important to start really waking up to how programmed we are and how the ego works on programming. And when ego works on programming, there's no ends to how judgmental and how hateful and vengeful and nasty really we can stoop ourselves to when we're not consistently bathing ourselves in the light and in love and really remembering who we are, that we came from God. We are love. We are light. At the end of the day, underneath it all, underneath that ego, we are love and light. I mean, who doesn't want to love? Who doesn't? I mean, obviously there are people that are so steeped in darkness that love is not in the equation. But underneath most of us, all we want is love, and all we want to give is love, and all we want to be is free and to have peace and to have abundance and prosperity. That's what we all want. And so why not go to the ground floor where it all begins, which is in the mind and which is in the heart? So something to think about. I know this video got lengthy, but when I get into that channeling mode, I just go all force. Like, it just comes out. I love you guys. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.